All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something, well, absolutely wild. We are going to reverse engineer a highly classified spacecraft, and we're going to do it using verifiable U.S. patents and real-world physics. We're looking at the engineering behind the infamous TR-3B. This is a craft that supposedly uses space-time manipulation to achieve flight, and as you'll see, that leaves us with some truly staggering mathematical and, honestly, horrifying biological implications. Let's dive right in. 55. I just want you to let that number sink in for a second. 55 is the exact number of g-forces that bleed right into the cockpit of the TR-3B during a Mach 10 turn. Just for a little context here, your standard, highly trained fighter pilot starts passing out at around 9 Gs. So, how on earth is 55 Gs even a part of the conversation?
Well, that brings us to the million-dollar question for today. How do you build a ship that literally ignores gravity and actually survives sitting inside the thing? We're going to break down the leaked engineering of this craft, moving from the seemingly impossible anti-gravity drive all the way to the highly patented, visceral biological hack required just to keep a human pilot alive.
Section 1. The Mass Reduction Drive.
Okay, so we're starting right at the core of the machine. The engine at the heart of the TR-3B is called the Magnetic Field Disruptor, or MFD. Now, unlike your standard jet engine that just pushes thrust out the back to move through the air, the MFD alters the actual physics around the craft. It's a ring-shaped particle accelerator that creates a localized torsion field, and its whole job is to literally remove the universe's grip on the hull.
Just look at the sheer brute force physics they're playing with here. Inside the MFD, they aren't using some lightweight gas. No way. They are spinning a heavy ion mercury plasma. We're talking a fluid literally as dense as lead that's been supercooled to negative 150 degrees Celsius, pressurized to 250,000 atmospheres, and accelerated to an insane 60,000 revolutions per minute. The massive kinetic energy of the spinning, highly charged mass is what actually tears at the fabric of spacetime to create that gravitational disruption.
But here's the catch. How do you carry that catastrophic of an electrical charge without just vaporizing the ship? Well, the plasma is doped with a massive electrical sponge. The source material points us directly to this specific document, U.S. Patent 2420864A. It's a 1947 patent for a barium titanate dielectric. Barium titanate is this lab-grown ceramic that can hold staggering amounts of electrical pressure. It basically acts as the critical structural foundation that lets this whole anti-gravity drive operate in the first place.
And listen, this isn't just science fiction. This is backed by public record confirmation. We have U.S. Patent 10.144532B2, authored by Dr. Salvatore Pais for the U.S. Navy. It outlines exactly how the accelerated spin of an electrically charged system can polarize the quantum vacuum, locally severing a craft's connection to mass and inertia. It is quite literally the mechanical blueprint for the exact physics we're talking about right now.
And this is a huge but, this human-engineered torsion field isn't completely perfect. The sources indicate that the magnetic field disruptor achieves exactly an 89% reduction in the craft's mass, so it effectively turns a 100-ton craft into an 11-ton craft. That's what enables these insane maneuvers that would look like pure magic to anyone expecting conventional mass in physics.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 55G fatal flaw.
So that 89% efficiency is an absolute miracle of engineering, right? But it leaves a fatal mathematical remainder for anyone actually sitting inside the airframe. What happens to that remaining 11%? Because the mass reduction field is absolute at the very center of the spinning plasma torus, but it degrades as it projects outward. Since the cockpit is farther from the core, it only gets that 89% reduction, meaning the pilot physically experiences 11% of the raw kinetic force during extreme maneuvers.
Let's just do the math real quick. If the TR-3B pulls an instantaneous right-angle turn at Mach 10, the raw physical force generates about 500 Gs. Take 11% of that, and you get a 55 G bleed-through. Look at the biological responses on this table. At 9 Gs, normal pilots start to black out. At 15 Gs, blood vessels are bursting. But at 55 Gs, the human body suffers total structural collapse. The aorta violently tears right off the heart, and your compressible, air-filled lungs are just crushed completely flat against your spine.
Yeah, 55 Gs of inertial bleed-through. The mass reduction makes the titanium airframe flyable for sure. But that bleed-through will instantly and mechanically liquefy a human pilot who happens to be breathing normal ambient air. The military-industrial complex realized pretty quickly they couldn't redesign the physics of the ship, so they had to fundamentally redesign the biology of the pilot.
Section 3. The biological fluid hack.
This brings us to the most visceral part of our explainer today. We're talking about using chemical fluid dynamics to make the human body basically indestructible. The core problem, as you know, is that air compresses under extreme g-force, but liquid doesn't. To survive this crushing force of extreme inertia, the military patented this exact system, U.S. Patent 4925133A, a liquid-breathing system for high-G flight, to eliminate compressible air from the equation entirely.
To match that insane external pressure, the pilot's lungs literally have to be filled with fluid. They do this using perfluorodecaline. This is a hyperdense, synthetic liquid fluorocarbon. Because of its totally unique intermolecular forces, it acts like a massive chemical sponge. It can dissolve vastly more oxygen than human blood, allowing a mammal to effectively breathe liquid. Sounds crazy, but the chemistry checks out.
So here's how this actually goes down. Step 1, the pilot is pharmacologically sedated to totally override the natural mammalian drowning reflex, because obviously your brain panics when fluid enters the lungs. Step 2, the lungs are entirely flooded with this oxygen-rich liquid. And Step 3, they're sealed in a fluid-filled, pressurized deceleration capsule. The pilot basically becomes this solid-state, incompressible organism suspended in a localized fluidic womb.
And this is just a brilliant illustration of Pascal's principle in action. Since the pilot is neutrally buoyant, and their internal hydrostatic pressure perfectly matches the external g-force pressure, that violent 55G kinetic shockwave, it just passes harmlessly right through the fluid, right through the suit, and right through the pilot's fluid-filled lungs without rupturing a single organ.
Section 4. The gravitational lens illusion.
Finally, let's zoom out and look at the exterior. How does this brutal, leaking physics package actually look to someone watching from the ground? Well, to push that remaining 11% of mass, the craft uses magnetohydrodynamic, or MHD, thrusters at the corners of the triangle. These ionize ambient air into this glowing plasma exhaust. On top of that, the intense torsion field from the MFD literally twists spacetime around the craft. It bends ambient light like a gravitational lens, so it effectively masks the physical 600-foot titanium hull inside a glowing plasma sheath, making it visually project as a glowing, shape-shifting orb of pure energy.
And that brings us to our final thought. The math proves that the TR-3B isn't magic. It's just classified physics we don't fully understand yet. What we've explored today is a picture of an aircraft carrier-sized vehicle artificially engineered to weigh a fraction of its mass, pushed by silent plasma engines, and piloted by human beings literally suspended in breathable fluorocarbons. So, the very next time you hear a report of a glowing orb defying the laws of physics, I want you to ask yourself, is it really magic out there, or is there a human pilot inside riding the absolute bleeding edge of a catastrophic physical collapse, drowning in fluorocarbons just to survive the ride?